Mark was the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city. He was a man who had everything: power, money, and respect. Yet, inside, he felt something was missing. He often heard people talk about how the world outside his office was very different from the life he lived. But he never really knew what it was like to be one of his employees or to understand their struggles. One evening, Mark decided he wanted to see the truth with his own eyes. He wanted to experience a night in his company without anyone knowing who he really was. So, he dressed in simple clothes: jeans, a plain shirt, and a cap to hide his face. He left his luxury car at the parking lot and walked into the building like a regular worker. The office was quiet. Most people had gone home hours ago. The lights were dimmed, and only a few security guards were making their rounds. Mark walked slowly, looking at the empty desks, the computers turned off, and the quiet halls. He could feel the silence, but also something else: a story waiting to be told. As he moved toward the back of the building, Mark noticed a faint light flickering under a door. It was not the bright, cold light of the office bulbs, but a soft, warm glow. Curious, Mark walked closer, careful not to make any noise. He stood near the door and looked inside. There, sitting on the floor near the wall, was a man reading a thick book. The man was holding a small flashlight in one hand and turning pages slowly with the other. His face was tired but full of concentration. Mark could see the man's rough clothes, worn shoes, and the simple watch on his wrist. The man didn't seem to notice Mark at all. Mark felt a sudden wave of emotion. This was not what he expected. This was not a rich man or a businessman, this was someone who worked hard, who wanted to learn more, even when everything was against him. The man noticed Mark's shadow and looked up quickly. He smiled shyly and said, "I didn't expect anyone here this late." Mark smiled back and introduced himself quietly, "I'm Mark." The man nodded and said, "I'm Sam. I'm the night security guard." Mark asked, "What are you reading so late? And why are you sitting on the floor?" Sam took a deep breath and explained softly, "I'm studying engineering. I want to become an engineer one day. The company pays me as a security guard, but my real dream is to build things and fix problems. This book is my textbook." Mark was surprised. "But why the flashlight? Why not the lights in the room?" Sam looked around and said, "The electricity in my apartment is often cut off because we cannot pay the bills all the time. So, I bring my books here to study quietly, even after my shift is over. The flashlight is all I have to see." Mark's heart sank. Here was a man working nights, guarding the building to earn money for his family, yet still studying hard in the dark to change his life. Mark thought about his own life: the easy access to everything, the many opportunities he had taken for granted. Sam looked at Mark and said, "I know it's hard. But I have to keep trying. My family is counting on me." Mark nodded silently. He realized this was more than just a story of a security guard. It was a story of hope, courage, and dreams in the face of difficulties. For the first time in a long time, Mark felt a deep connection to someone outside his world. He wanted to know more about Sam, his struggles, his hopes. But he also felt unsure: how could he, a CEO, help someone like Sam? Was he ready to change the way he thought about people who worked for him? Mark thanked Sam for sharing his story and quietly left the room. As he walked back through the dark halls, he couldn't stop thinking about the man reading by flashlight. Something inside him was changing: a small seed of understanding and kindness was growing. That night, Mark stayed late in the building, walking through the empty offices, thinking about what he had seen. He realized that success wasn't just about money or power. It was about people, their stories, their dreams, and their struggles. The next morning, Mark returned to his office with a new mission. He wanted to learn more about the people who worked for him. He wanted to find ways to help them, especially those like Sam, who worked hard to build a better life despite the odds. But first, he had to see more with his own eyes. The next night, Mark returned to the company building, this time feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. He wanted to see Sam again and learn more about the man who had touched his heart with his quiet determination. Mark still wore simple clothes, careful not to reveal who he really was. The night was cool and calm, with only the soft hum of the city in the distance. Mark walked slowly through the empty hallways. He passed the offices, the break rooms, and the staircases. Finally, he reached the small room where he had found Sam the night before. The light was again flickering under the door. He knocked softly and waited. The door opened a little, and Sam's tired but kind face appeared. "You're back," Sam said quietly, surprised but happy to see Mark. "Yes," Mark answered, "I wanted to know more about you and your studies." Sam smiled and stepped aside to let Mark in. The room was small and plain. A few chairs and a table stood against the wall. On the floor near the window, Sam had spread his books and papers. The flashlight was on, casting a soft yellow glow across the pages. Mark sat down carefully, trying not to disturb Sam. "Tell me your story," Mark said gently. Sam looked down for a moment, then began. "I come from a small town far from here," he said. "My parents worked hard, but we never had much money. When I was young, I loved fixing things, broken radios, old machines, anything I could find. I dreamed of becoming an engineer, but that dream seemed far away." He paused and looked at Mark. "I had to leave school after 10th grade to help my family. I worked many jobs selling things on the street, helping in shops, but it was never enough. One day, I got this job as a night security guard at this company. The pay is low, but it helps my family live a little better." Mark listened closely. He could see the pain in Sam's eyes but also the hope. Sam continued, "Even though I worked nights, I wanted to study again. I saved money for used textbooks and applied to a local evening college. The problem is, I don't have a good place to study. My home has no electricity most of the time because we can't pay the bills. That's why I bring my books here and use the flashlight to read." Mark's heart ached. He imagined how hard it must be to study by such weak light, sitting on cold floors, after a long night of work. "But why do you keep going, Sam?" Mark asked. Sam smiled softly. "Because I want to give my family a better life. I want to be a good example for my little sister. If I become an engineer, I can help more people and make things better. I believe if you really want something, you have to fight for it, even when it's hard." Mark felt a new respect for Sam. Here was a man who did not complain, who did not give up, and who found strength in hope. As they talked, Mark noticed something else. Despite the tiredness in Sam's eyes, his voice was strong. His hands moved with purpose when he spoke about his dreams. It was clear that Sam was not just a security guard, he was a man full of potential waiting for a chance. Mark asked, "Do you have any support? Family or friends who help you?" Sam shook his head slowly. "My family supports me, but they don't have much. My friends are busy with their own struggles. I have to do this mostly on my own. Sometimes it feels lonely, but I keep going." Mark understood. He had always been surrounded by people who helped him. Sam's journey was very different. Before Mark left that night, he made a promise to himself. He would find a way to help Sam. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. This man's story had touched him deeply. As Mark walked away from the building, the city lights seemed brighter than before. He thought about all the people like Sam working hard, dreaming big, but often invisible to the world. He decided to keep visiting Sam in secret, to learn more about his life and struggles. Maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. Over the next few weeks, Mark continued his undercover visits. Each night, he learned something new about the workers in his company. He saw their hard work, their fears, and their hopes. But no one touched his heart more than Sam. One night, as Sam studied by the faint flashlight, Mark brought him a small gift, a new, bright lantern. "This is for you," Mark said softly. "So you don't have to study in the dark anymore." Sam looked surprised and then smiled widely. "Thank you, Mark. This means a lot to me." Mark smiled back, feeling a warmth inside that money could never buy. Their friendship grew quietly. Sam never asked who Mark really was, and Mark did not tell. Instead, they shared stories, hopes, and dreams, creating a bond built on respect and kindness. Mark realized that sometimes, the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, one small act of kindness could change a life forever. The days passed, and Mark's secret visits to the company continued. Every night, he found himself drawn to the small room where Sam studied by the light of the lantern. Sam was no longer alone in the darkness. The bright lantern made the pages of his textbooks clear, and for the first time, studying seemed less like a battle and more like a hopeful journey. Mark watched as Sam's dedication never wavered. Even after long shifts guarding the building, Sam would sit quietly, reading, solving problems, and dreaming of a better future. Sometimes, Mark would sit nearby, pretending to read a book or write notes, just to be close to the quiet strength of this man. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside the window, Sam spoke softly. "I worry about failing," he said. "Sometimes, the work is so hard, and the problems seem impossible. I wonder if I'm strong enough." Mark smiled gently. "Sam, it's okay to feel that way. Everyone has doubts. What matters is that you don't give up." Sam looked up, hope shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Mark. Your words mean a lot." Mark felt something shift inside him. Here was a man who, despite the hardships, refused to give up on his dreams. Sam was not just studying to change his life, he was inspiring Mark to change, too. One night, Mark decided to take a small step. He quietly spoke to one of the managers during the day, asking about education programs and support for employees who wanted to study. The manager was surprised but interested. "It's not common for security staff to get help like that," he said. "But if you want to start something, I can help." Mark felt hope grow inside him. Maybe this was the start of something bigger. At the same time, Sam's life outside the company was still full of challenges. He lived in a small apartment with his mother and younger sister. The apartment was simple, with peeling paint on the walls and old furniture. But the family was full of love. Sam's mother worked as a cleaner in the neighborhood. She woke up early every day and returned late, tired but always smiling. She believed in Sam's dreams, even when times were tough. "You will make us proud, my son," she would say, holding his hands tightly. Sam's little sister, Anna, was only 10 years old. She loved to draw and dreamed of becoming a teacher. At night, she would sit by Sam's side, watching him study. "One day, I want to learn like you," she told him. "We will both make our dreams come true." Sam smiled at her and promised, "We will, Anna. We have to." Mark heard these stories from Sam during their late-night talks. He admired the bond of family that gave Sam strength. It was clear that Sam's dreams were not just for himself but for everyone he loved. One evening, as Mark prepared to leave, Sam handed him a small notebook. "I write my ideas and problems here," Sam explained. "It helps me think and remember things." Mark took the notebook carefully. Inside were pages full of notes, drawings, and solutions to engineering problems. The notebook showed not only Sam's hard work but also his creativity and hope. Mark felt proud and inspired. Here was a man who had everything to lose but chose to keep fighting. Days later, Mark invited Sam to a quiet cafe after his shift. They sat with cups of tea, away from the company and its rules. Mark wanted to talk about the future. Sam, Mark began carefully, I want to help you. Not just with a lantern or words, but real support. Would you be interested in a scholarship? We can help you pay for your classes and give you time to study. Sam's eyes grew wide. Are you serious? That would change everything for me. Mark smiled. It's serious. You have talent and heart. The company should help people like you, and I want to start that change. Sam felt a mixture of joy and nervousness. Thank you, Mark. I don't know how to repay you. Mark shook his head. Just keep studying and never give up. From that day on, a new hope began to shine in Sam's life. The scholarship gave him access to better books, tutors, and time to focus on his studies. The company also started to think about programs to support other employees who dreamed of more. Mark watched these changes quietly, proud of the small difference he could make. But he also knew that this was only the beginning. One evening, as Sam closed his books, he looked at Mark and said, "You changed my life without even trying." Mark smiled softly. "No, Sam. You changed mine." The weeks passed quickly after Mark offered his help to Sam. The company began making small changes to support employees who wanted to learn and grow. Yet, for Mark, there was still one big question: should he tell Sam the truth about who he really was? Mark thought about it many times. He was the CEO, the boss of the company, someone who usually stayed behind big desks and made important decisions from far away. But now, he was close to Sam. He knew Sam's struggles, his dreams, and his heart. He wondered if telling Sam the truth would help or hurt. One evening, after Sam's shift ended, Mark invited him to meet in a quiet room at the company. Sam arrived, tired but smiling. "What's this about?" he asked. Mark took a deep breath and said, "Sam, I have something important to tell you. I'm not just a worker here like you think. I'm the CEO of this company." Sam blinked in surprise. He looked at Mark carefully. "You're joking." Mark shook his head. "No, I'm serious. I wanted to see the company from a different view, to understand the real life of the people who work here. And that's how I met you." Sam was quiet for a moment. "I don't know what to say," he finally said. "I didn't expect that." Mark smiled softly. "I didn't tell you before because I wanted to see the truth without any masks. But now, I want to be honest with you. I want to help you in any way I can, not just as the CEO, but as someone who believes in you." Sam looked down, thinking deeply. "This changes things. But I'm glad you told me. It shows that you care." Mark nodded. "I do care, Sam. Your story has changed me. I want to make sure that no one in this company feels invisible or stuck." Sam looked up and smiled. "Thank you, Mark, for believing in me." That night, the two men made a plan together. Sam would continue his studies with the help of the scholarship. Mark promised to create programs for employees who wanted to learn new skills. The company would also offer flexible work hours to those who needed time for school. But it wasn't just about programs and money. Mark wanted to change the culture of the company. He wanted every employee to feel respected, seen, and supported. Sam felt hope growing inside him. For the first time, he believed that his dreams could come true not just because of his hard work, but because someone believed in him too. The next day, Mark held a meeting with his team. He shared Sam's story, without revealing names, to explain why the company needed to change. His team listened carefully and promised to help make the company a better place for everyone. Meanwhile, Sam worked harder than ever. He studied late into the night, practiced problems, and attended every class. The new support from the company gave him energy and courage. One evening, as Sam prepared for a big exam, Mark stopped by the small room with books and the bright lantern. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Sam smiled, though nervous. "I'm ready. I've worked hard, and I hope it's enough." Mark nodded. "It will be. And no matter what, I'm proud of you." The exam was tough, but Sam gave it his best. Days later, when the results came back, Sam had passed with high marks. He called Mark immediately, excitement in his voice. "I did it. I passed." Mark smiled and said, "I knew you would." That moment was not just a success for Sam, it was a victory for both of them. It showed that with support and belief, dreams could become real. But the story did not end there. Mark and Sam continued to work together to build a company that cared for its people. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they also knew they could face them with hope and courage. Sam's journey had changed Mark's life forever, and Mark's support had opened doors for Sam that once seemed impossible. Together, they were not just building a company, they were building a family. After Sam passed his exam, a new chapter began, not just for him but for the entire company. The changes Mark had started were slowly becoming real. Employees who had once felt invisible now had new hope, new chances to learn and grow. Sam's days became busy but full of purpose. By day, he worked as a security guard, watching over the building with careful eyes. By night, he studied engineering with a new sense of confidence. The bright lantern Mark had given him continued to light the pages of his books, but now it also symbolized something more, a light of hope. Mark watched Sam's transformation closely. He saw how the small support they had given Sam was making a big difference. Sam's tired eyes now shone with determination, and his smile came more often. He was no longer just a worker, he was a student, a dreamer, and a leader in the making. One afternoon, Mark visited the security office where Sam worked. The other guards greeted Mark politely, but their eyes showed surprise. They didn't know who he really was yet. Mark introduced himself simply, "I'm here to see how things are going." Sam was surprised but happy to see Mark. "It's good to see you," he said. Mark smiled. "I want to learn more about your work. Tell me, what challenges do you face?" Sam thought for a moment. "Sometimes, the night shifts are long and lonely. The building can be cold, and there's little time to rest. But I try to stay focused because I know this job helps my family." Mark nodded. "And what about your studies? How do you manage both?" Sam laughed softly. "It's hard. Some nights, I'm so tired that I almost give up. But then I think about my family and my dreams, and I keep going." Mark felt proud. "You inspire me, Sam. Your strength is incredible." As the weeks went by, the company started new programs for employees who wanted to learn. They offered classes, tutoring, and flexible work hours. Many workers who had never thought about studying before began to dream again. Sam became a symbol of hope for others. His story spread quietly, showing that with hard work and support, anyone could change their life. One day, Sam was invited to speak at a company event. At first, he was nervous. Speaking in front of so many people was new for him. But when he stood on the stage and looked at the audience, he saw faces full of encouragement. He began to speak, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I was once just a security guard, working nights and studying by flashlight. I didn't have many chances, but I had a dream. With support, hard work, and hope, I am here today. And I believe anyone can achieve their dreams if given a chance." The room filled with applause. Many people came up to Sam afterward, thanking him for sharing his story. Mark watched from the back of the room, feeling proud and inspired. He knew that Sam's success was just the beginning. There were many more stories like his waiting to be told. At home, Sam's family celebrated his progress. His mother cooked a special dinner, and Anna showed off a drawing she had made of her big brother studying with the bright lantern. The family laughed, shared stories, and dreamed of the future together. Sam's life was changing, but he never forgot where he came from. He still worked hard as a security guard and stayed humble. But now, he had a future full of promise. One night, as Sam studied, Mark stopped by with a small gift, a notebook filled with pages for Sam to write down his ideas and dreams. "Keep dreaming, Sam," Mark said. "I believe in you." Sam took the notebook and smiled. "Thank you, Mark. For everything." Mark smiled back. "You don't have to thank me. You earned this." The bond between them grew stronger. They were no longer just CEO and security guard. They were friends, partners in a journey to change lives. Mark realized that sometimes, the greatest leaders are those who listen, learn, and care deeply about the people around them. And sometimes, the greatest heroes are those who work quietly, never giving up on their dreams. Together, they were creating something new, a company that was not just about business, but about hope, kindness, and the power of believing in each other. Life was beginning to change for Sam, but it was not always easy. As his studies progressed, the demands of work and school grew stronger. Balancing the night shifts with difficult classes became a test of his strength and patience. One cold evening, after a long shift, Sam sat in the small room with his books and the bright lantern. His eyes were heavy with tiredness. The equations on the page seemed confusing, and his mind felt foggy. He sighed deeply. Mark noticed Sam's struggle when he visited that night. "You look tired, Sam," he said kindly. "Are you okay?" Sam shook his head slowly. "It's hard, Mark. Sometimes I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world. My family depends on me, my job is tough, and my studies are harder than I expected." Mark sat down beside him. "It's normal to feel this way. But you don't have to carry it all alone." Sam looked at Mark, hope mixing with his weariness. "But I have to. If I stop, everything falls apart." Mark thought for a moment. "What if I told you there might be a way to make things easier? You don't have to do everything by yourself. We can find help." Sam was quiet, his mind turning over the possibilities. "I want to believe that. But I'm afraid to ask for help. I don't want to seem weak." Mark smiled gently. "Asking for help is not weakness, it's strength. It shows you care about your future." That night, Mark arranged for Sam to meet with a counselor at the company. The counselor was kind and understanding. She helped Sam find ways to manage his time better, suggested support groups, and talked about stress and pressure. Sam felt lighter after the meeting. For the first time, he realized that he could ask for help and that others wanted to support him. At the same time, the company's new education program was growing. More employees signed up for classes and training. The company provided study materials, extra breaks, and even quiet rooms for employees to study during their shifts. One day, the company announced a special event, a competition for employees to present ideas that could improve the company. The winner would receive a scholarship and a chance to work in a new department. Mark encouraged Sam to join. "This is your chance to show everyone what you can do." Sam was nervous but excited. He spent nights preparing his project, a simple, cost-effective security system idea that could help the company save money and increase safety. When the day of the competition arrived, Sam stood in front of a crowd of employees and managers. His heart raced, but he spoke clearly and confidently. He explained his idea, using drawings and examples. The room was quiet, then applause grew louder. Sam's idea was simple but smart. Mark felt proud as he watched. After the presentations, the judges announced the winner, Sam. Sam's eyes widened in disbelief. He had won. Mark stepped forward and said, "Sam, your idea shows talent, hard work, and a deep understanding of the company's needs. This scholarship and job opportunity are well deserved. Sam thanked everyone, feeling overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. But even with the success, challenges remained. Sam's family still faced financial struggles, and the pressure of responsibility was heavy. He often thought about quitting, but each time, he remembered his mother's words, "You will make us proud." Mark continued to support Sam, encouraging him to keep moving forward. "You are stronger than you think," Mark said. "And you have a whole team behind you." Slowly, Sam began to see a future where his hard work would pay off. He dreamed of becoming an engineer, of building things that could help many people. One evening, Sam sat with Anna, showing her the new blueprints he had drawn for his project. Anna's eyes sparkled with admiration. "You're amazing, big brother. I want to be just like you." Sam smiled and held her hand. "We will both make our dreams come true, Anna." Mark watched from a distance, knowing that Sam's journey was far from over. But he also knew that the man who once studied by flashlight was now ready to face any challenge. The company was no longer just a place to work, it was a place to grow, learn, and dream. And for Sam, the future was bright. Months passed, and everything around Sam began to look different. He was no longer just a security guard working long nights and studying by flashlight. He had become someone others looked up to, someone who proved that dreams could come true if you worked hard and never gave up. Sam had now moved into a new department in the company. He worked with engineers and safety experts, helping design better security systems. His ideas were fresh, simple, and smart because he had lived the problems himself. He understood what the building needed, and that made his work special. His schedule had changed too. He no longer worked night shifts. He had more time to attend classes, work on real projects, and spend time with his family. His mother was proud of him, and Anna often told her friends at school, "My brother is an engineer now." One Friday afternoon, the company organized a large event called Voices of Change. It was a celebration of employee growth and stories that had inspired others. Mark, now more connected with his staff than ever before, stood on stage in front of a large crowd of workers, partners, and even people from other companies. He spoke with emotion in his voice. "We are not just a company of numbers and tasks. We are a company of people. Real people, with real dreams. And today, I want to share one story that changed me and this company forever." Mark then invited Sam onto the stage. Sam walked up slowly, his heart beating fast. Just a year ago, he had been sitting on the cold floor with a flashlight, afraid that his dreams were too big. And now, he stood on stage, ready to speak to hundreds of people. He looked at the crowd, smiled, and began. "My name is Sam. I started here as a night security guard. I worked quietly, did my job, and then studied during my breaks. I used a small flashlight because I didn't have electricity at home. I had no money, but I had a dream to become an engineer." He paused, his eyes soft with emotion. "One night, someone saw me sitting alone, reading that book. He talked to me like a friend. He believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. That man was Mark, our CEO. And his kindness changed everything." The room was silent. Many eyes filled with tears. Sam continued, "Today, I work in the engineering department. I'm still learning, still growing. But more than that, I've learned that no one's dream is too small. Sometimes, we just need someone to believe in us." The audience stood up in applause. It was a moment that would stay in people's hearts forever. After the event, many employees came to Sam, sharing their own stories and struggles. They told him he gave them hope, that if he could rise, maybe they could too. Sam never let success change who he was. He still greeted every worker with respect. He often visited the security office to say hello and remind the guards, "You matter. You are important." Mark and Sam remained close. Their bond had gone beyond business. It had become something deeper, built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. One afternoon, as they walked through the company garden, Mark said, "Do you remember the first time I saw you with that flashlight?" Sam laughed softly. "How could I forget? I thought you were just another curious worker." Mark smiled. "That moment changed my life. I saw how far we were from truly understanding the people who work with us." "You opened my eyes, Sam." Sam looked at the trees around them. "You gave me a chance, Mark. That's all I ever needed." Mark paused. "And you proved that the best ideas, the strongest hearts, they're not always found in fancy offices. Sometimes, they're sitting quietly in the dark, with a flashlight and a dream." Epilogue: 2 years later, Sam completed his engineering degree with top marks. The company offered him a leadership role in the technology department. He accepted, not for the title, but for the opportunity to help others like him. Sam also started a small foundation that offered night school scholarships to workers in the city who wanted to study. He named it the Lantern Project in memory of where it all began. Every month, Sam visited one of the night classes to meet the students. He told them his story. And every time, he ended with the same words: "Don't ever think your dream is too small. Even in the darkest times, a little light is enough to lead the way." And that's how the story of a simple security guard and an undercover CEO became a story of hope, change, and the quiet power of believing in someone.